kids like videos on boomer shooters, right? I mean, who doesn't? I've been watching videos like these since 2014, starting with Lazy Game Reviews and his historical coverage of Duke Nukem and Doom, followed by Civvy and G-Man and their more eccentric takes on games that we grew up with. There's something magical about listening to someone talk about these old games, combined with gameplay footage in the background, and it's honestly a part of why I wanted to start up a channel of my own. But you know what? While I always find it interesting that YouTubers make these videos, and I'll always immediately hop over to watch the latest one on my subscription list, I've noticed that there seems to be no rhyme or reason to the games that are chosen to be played. It always seems to be based on whatever floats the boat of the particular YouTuber at the time, and that's fine. But noticing that, I wondered what it would be like if someone decided to go through the most impactful first-person shooters in chronological order starting at the beginning. So that's the nigh impossible task that I've decided to tackle myself, and go one by one with the most important first-person shooters in gaming history, starting with the year 1992. I'm going to play and review something close to 100 shooters that span 30 years of gaming history. Yes, there were other games that were played from a first-person perspective before 1992, and it could even be argued that some of them were, in fact, the actual first-person shooters. But when it comes down to mapping and tracking the path of the genre that we know as we know it, starting in 1992 is, for me, the way to go. And that's because on May 5th, 1992, Wolfenstein 3D was unleashed onto the market, and nothing about PC gaming would ever be the same again. Of course, many would rightly argue that the true starting point of the first-person shooter would be in 1993 with the release of Doom, and I would not call those advocates wrong. But for me, as someone who stayed up late at a sleepover just to get on the family computer and play Wolfenstein in secret until the wee hours of the morning, as someone who lived through that sea change, I will absolutely and fully declare Wolfenstein is the first of the first-person shooters, and this is my channel, goddammit, so I'm standing by that. What about the rest of the shooters that came out over the course of the past 30 years? Obviously, the state of FPS gaming is nothing like where it was in May of 92, meaning that it has taken some twists and turns along the way to get here. What games have had an impact on that evolution? Which games brought advancements or enhancements to the genre in ways that we might not all know about? And are these games still playable today? Well, kids, as your gamer dad, it's my job to dig through the crates and see what we can find out. I haven't played every single FPS game ever made, or even many of the games that I'm planning to play for this project, but I remember them. I remember reading reviews, seeing advertisements, looking over the boxes at the game stores. I remember them. As the song says, I was there. Now, all of these games were carefully chosen for their various impacts upon the genre, which we will discuss as we go through each one. But with that noted, you're probably wondering what the qualifications were for getting on my list. Well, let's see. 1. Game had to have a significant impact on the genre. Now, this might seem a little easy to define, but it does get somewhat fast and loose at times. Witch Haven might not be a great game per se, or a game that many remember, for good reasons. But it does have the benefit of being the first game ever released that ran on the build engine. You know, that game engine which brought us these monuments to gaming, which is what gets Witch Haven on the list. There's a few games that make the list for those reasons, such as introducing a new game engine, which many other games utilized afterward, or introducing new mechanics that had not been seen up until that point. The point is, whether an overt or subtle impact, the impact must be significant, and I will make sure that we address them all. 2. No add-ons or expansion packs. Look, I'm not biased against DLC or expansions, but that's not the point of this list. We're looking at base games and base games only, which means no Death Kings of the Dark Citadel for Hexen, and despite the protests, that means no Thy Flesh Consumed for Doom. Base games and base games only. 3. Has to primarily be a shooter with a focus on shooting mechanics. We've seen a lot of games that have contributed to first-person gaming over the years, but the focus of this list is on action and guns blazing content. Now, a game might offer stealth as an option, but it also might offer straightforward combat as an option too. If it allows me the opportunity to wade into combat like a bat out of hell, and if the creators and contribution are significant to first-person shooters, I'm gonna play it. Which means that a stealth-oriented first-person game like Thief doesn't make the cut. Meanwhile, System Shock makes the list despite not being a shooter-focused game, but because its influence led to Deus Ex and BioShock, which then also had a huge influence on future FPS titles. 4. Any sequels have to be significant on their own, not just part of a series. So, sure, it goes without saying that Doom as a whole is going on this list, and so is Halo, but only the mainline Halo titles. No spin-offs. ODST and Reach don't make the cut. Meanwhile, Call of Duty will be on the list, as is Battlefield, but only 1 or 2 entries from each series made it. Serious Sam is a great game and had a huge impact on the genre, but Serious Sam 2, not so much. Sure, there might be some arbitrary reasons in there depending on the game and the sequel, but I'm trying to stay as on target as possible without the entire list ballooning to impossible size. Those are pretty much the qualifiers to make the list for the project. So far the list is sitting around 97 games, but I might end up adding 1 or 2 out of arbitrary reasons. For example, I wasn't going to play Blood 2, because why the fuck would I put that on this list? list. But I thought about it, and it does provide a great example of a shooter that was crafted and shipped out the door by a publisher well before it was ready, even though the publisher knew it wasn't. And yeah, alright, it's on the list now. Since I'm going to be working on this project while also still playing and reviewing upcoming indie FPS games, the way I'm going to put these games out will be on a year-by-year basis. I'll keep working on all the videos for the games for any given year until I've finished each video, and then I'll put them out one a week. So, for example, there's 3 games that came out in 1993 that are on my list. Once all those videos are done, boom, there's 3 weeks of content. Some years are going to be packed, though. 1997 is going to cover 8 fucking games, which might take me a while to produce, but I'm doing my best to stay ahead of the game. And keep content coming at a steady pace. Alrighty kids, let's get down to brass tacks. We have a lot of ground to cover, and we won't get there unless we actually get started on it. Coming up, the first game on our list, a little title that you have definitely heard of, and maybe even played, Wolfenstein 3D. Stay tuned and stay hydrated, kids, and maybe even grab some popcorn, because it's time to have some fun. I'll see you then.